Trump, and very different parts of the Republican Party, and sort of the relationships to politics in general, tells you a lot about the way he is planning to govern.
Dana, Steve Bannon is also someone who in leaked emails said that he wanted to see Speaker Ryan gone by spring, who in an interview back in 2010 said the Republican Party needed to be, quote, bitch slapped. Are you getting any reaction from Republicans on the Hill? Because Paul Ryan's statement tonight only talked about PRIENUS. He didn't even mention Bannon. Well, that tells you everything you need to know. Yes, Steve Bannon's publication, where he was before he took a leave of absence to join the Trump campaign, was at Breitbart, a conservative website which had been setting its sights very much on the Republican establishment, kind of in keeping with, for lack of a better way to describe it, kind of the Tea Party ideals, that the establishment was heading in the wrong direction, was leading the Republican Party in the wrong direction, and so they would go after, on a regular basis, Republican leaders, including Paul Ryan. But it's not just that, Poppy. Some of the concern that we're hearing so far privately from Republicans, we'll see if that becomes a public situation, is that while he was in charge of Breitbart, there were some things published that were just flat out, frankly, unacceptable to most people. For example, I'll just tell you one example, and that is about Bill Kristol. He is a neocon. A conservative, very much anti-Trump. Led the sort of anti-Trump, never Trump movement, and continued to do so. I don't know if we have it to put up on the screen. Breitbart, now he didn't write this, but he was in charge of Breitbart. Bill Kristol, Republican spoiler, renegade Jew. Which, his religion has nothing to do with anything, or shouldn't, but according to the publication, it belongs in a headline. So that gives you a sense of why people have paused there. However, I will say that people who did not go into the campaign wanting to like or respect Steve Bannon said that what they saw in private was somebody who could perform as almost as an equal to Donald Trump, somebody who, despite the fact that he made his money off of going off after fellow Republicans, was one of the people who tried to convince Donald Trump, the candidate, not to react every time a Republican criticized him, because it was bad for the greater good, which was getting elected president. So, Dana, let's pull up. I have some of those full screens, guys, so let's pull them up. These are 3 headlines from Breitbart News, 2 of them from today, and then we'll bring up the Bill Kristol one. One of them is Meltdown Continues, Wave of Fake Hate Crimes Sweep Social Media. The next, Anti-Democracy Crybabies March by the Thousands Nationwide. These are Breitbart's headlines today. Why does this matter? Steve Bannon, who will now be Trump's right-hand man in the White House, was, the executive of this news website until he joined the campaign. And here's the headline that Dana pointed out: Bill Kristol, Republican spoiler, renegade Jew. So, Dana, stay with me, and let me also bring my panel in to talk about this. Brian Stelter is with us. Also, David Gergen, CNN senior political analyst, is with us. Charles Blow, CNN political commentator and an opinion columnist for the New York Times, and Jack Kingston, a former congressman from Georgia and senior advisor to Donald Trump's campaign. Brian Stelter, to you, give people the context of Steve Bannon and Breitbart, and explain to the American public the significance of it when it comes to pushing an alt-right agenda.
Bannon has described Breitbart as a platform for the alt-right. This is a website that has grown by leaps and bounds in the past few years, and especially during Trump's candidacy for president, because it was a real hub for pro-Trump news. It publishes lots of kinds of stories. Breitbart has lots of things, but one of the things it is a white nationalist website, a site that advocates for what it says is its audience. Now, some of this is just baseline trolling. Some of this is just kind of troll behavior. Well, the site and the alt-right rejects both mainstream conservatism as well as liberalism. That's why Paul Ryan, as Dana was saying, is a top target of Breitbart and Bannon.
Charles Blow, you are, am I correct to say, appalled by this appointment? Why?
I mean, this is not really an argument. People keep wanting to try to split the hair, and the hair will not be split. People want to say, I accept the parts of this that I agree with, and I can somehow push away or push out of my consciousness the parts of that I don't. I accept the parts of Bannon that I agree with because he has had different jobs and he seems like a nice guy in person, and I kind of push away the parts of him that are aberrant and not normal and not right. I push away the part of Donald Trump, who I still believe is a demagogue and a bigot and is a misogynist. I can look, because I want a Supreme Court that I agree with, I can push aside all of that. These hairs cannot be split. You have to continue to say this to America. You cannot have it both ways. If you are supporting Trump, who is bringing both of these forces to bear into the White House, then you are supporting that. That is part of what you have bought this. There is no way around it. There's no other way. There's no way to hide it. There's no way to say, I agree with part of him, but not all of him. No, you get all of it. And what you are getting is Bannon. You're not getting just PRIENUS. You're getting Bannon. And that is a real thing. If you are saying somewhere out in America that you are not part of the hate, yes, you are. If you are supporting this man and you're supporting these moves, that's the way it is.
Okay, I'm going to have the congressman respond to you, of course, in just a moment, but I do want to get to our Dana Bash with some other reporting. Dana, just more on this pick of Reince Priebus. This is who Donald Trump's kids wanted as his chief of staff. This is who Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, wanted, reportedly, right, as chief of staff. They got both.
Right. This is the person who the Republican establishment, if you will, wanted, and the people, most importantly, regardless of what you call them, the people who will be working with President Trump in the Republican-led Congress wanted. He, as chairman of the Republican Party, knows them all, helped get them all elected for the most part. And most importantly, he is somebody very, very close to the House Speaker. You mentioned when you came to me before that the House Speaker has said in a statement that he's very happy that Reince Priebus was chosen. There's a reason for that, because Paul Ryan has been sort of toiling away as a policy wonk trying to get some big issues passed, and he's hoping that with a Republican president, despite their differences, he can do that even more so with Reince Priebus as chief of staff. So that's the reason why. And the other thing that we should keep in mind in terms of the people who got Donald Trump elected, Reince Priebus ran an RNC which had an unconventional, almost unprecedented role in the presidential campaign. They ran the ground game. They got people out to vote. He did it by, frankly, making people angry 3 years ago by spending a lot of money in doing this and sort of building up the operations in key states in a non-election year. And at the end of the day, that combined with the enthusiasm of Donald Trump, which was really like no other, they were able to get him elected.
But Dana, let me also ask you this, because I was looking back, and Donald Trump didn't always love Reince Priebus. I mean, he said in April, the primary system is a, quote, scam, disgrace, and rigged. And then he went on to say about Priebus specifically, it's a disgrace for the party, and Reince Priebus should be ashamed of himself.
You're absolutely right, and that is part of the reason why some people who were close to Trump had told us leading into this announcement that he was not so sure, because he prides loyalty. I mean, loyalty is so important to him, and Steve Bannon has been incredibly loyal to Donald Trump, because Bannon saw Trump as kind of the guy who was finally pushing the issues and the policies and sort of the ideals that he had pushed through Breitbart. But Reince Priebus had a very different role. He's chairman of the Republican Party and was, during the primary process, with 17 people running where he couldn't, pick a horse. So it was not always easy. And even in the general election, Poppy, you remember, because of his role, he openly criticized Donald Trump when the Access Hollywood tape came out. Did not make Donald Trump happy, but Reince Priebus had
about
to
the Muslim ban. I mean, it's going to be interesting, Dana. And about the Muslim ban, he said, quote, I don't agree. We need to aggressively take on radical Islamic terrorism, but not at the expense of our American values. So, for example, that has been a key thing that Donald Trump has run on, along with the wall. So what happens when you've got Reince on one position on that and Donald Trump and Steve Bannon on another? Well,
Trump in the campaign a few months ago, at least, had already sort of modified that Muslim ban, and that's something that
extreme vetting, but he never really clarified.
Right. Look, and so what you have now is the hope of a lot of people who also didn't think that that was the right way to go, somebody in the White House who is going to say that to a President Trump, no, this isn't the right policy. Whether or not he would be successful, who knows? But you're exactly right. There were a lot of issues, just like Republican leaders in Congress who until, I don't know, 6 days ago wouldn't even say the name Trump. They would just call him the nominee, disagreed with Donald Trump on. And now it's a whole different world.
Dan Bash, great reporting, helping break this story tonight. Thank you very much for that. Back to my panel. David Gergen is also with us, former advisor to four presidents, and the Congressman Jack Kingston is back with us. Congressman, I want to let you respond to what Charles Blow said earlier.
Well, I mean, basically, I just got called a racist because I supported Donald Trump. I guess that's the new word for deplorables. But, I sponsored and authored the bill to build the African American Museum on the Mall, 5 blocks away from where we sit. With J.C. Watts, I co-sponsored a resolution to recognize slave labor in construction of the U.S. Capitol. I come from Savannah, Georgia. 50% of the city is African American. I'm not a racist. And it's easy for the left to say, well, if you supported Trump, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe. And I understand that, but you know what? The campaign is over. And I would say take a lesson from President Obama's words the other day, Oprah's words the other day, which she was denounced for, or Andrew Young. I mean, it's time to reconciliate. And I'll say this, I would not want to be part, and I'm not part of the administration, but if I was a part of it, I would not want to be a part of something where there's racism going on. I firmly believe in my heart of hearts that when you see the full team, that the left, the protesters that are out there right now are going to be pleased with the inclusion, and it's going to have all kinds of inclusion on it. And I want to say this real quick about Reince Priebus. Part of his asset was Sean Spicer, who ran that ground game that matched what the Democrats and President Obama did in 2008 and 2012. And he also has that part of him, along with the glad-handed and maybe the public face. He understands the strategy. So I think that the marriage of all of these people and these talents, it's going to be very powerful for a successful administration.
David Gergen, your thoughts. The news of Reince Priebus is getting a bit overshadowed, just to be candid, by this sort of surprise Steve Bannon announcement. I mean, and the fact that Donald Trump has said they will be equals in this. What is your take overall on these two big names this Sunday night?
Well, these appointments send out very conflicting signals about the presidency that Donald Trump envisions. On one hand, Reince Priebus is well regarded. It was a very promising appointment, very reassuring to Republicans, but to many other people in the country, Reince Priebus is not an ideologue. He's a mainstream conservative. There's been no signs of being anti-Semitic or racist or anything like that. And I think that he wants to make the system work. On the other hand, Steve Bannon is a very, very different character, and he sends out completely opposite signals. Breitbart is known for, you read out, known as an arch-conservative. And what is, I think, up in question right now is who is actually going to do what among this pair. It sounds like that what they've asked Priebus to do is to be the chief administrator, to make the trains run on time, to be a good, operating officer, but in setting direction for the White House over the long term, it's more Bannon. Now, frankly, in a business, you would call Bannon then the CEO and Priebus the COO, the chief operating officer. I don't know whether that's what they intend or not. I would imagine that'd be a big letdown to a lot of people. But I will tell you this, that if you select Steve Bannon for a major post, Charles Blow is right in this sense. If you select Steve Bannon, he brings his baggage with him, and you have embraced that by appointing him. This is a discretionary appointment. So you do have to take some responsibility for the beliefs and the values represented by one of the top two people in the White House with you. Trump himself will obviously be, in the end, call all the shots, but one wonders if, in the end of the day, Trump is sort of a composite of the two.
Yeah.
Well, when you say you are who you surround yourself with, the question is, Donald Trump has surrounded himself throughout this campaign and now as president-elect with very different people. If you look at a Kellyanne Conway or Reince Priebus, Steve Bannon, they all come from very different perspectives and backgrounds. Guys, stay with me. We got to get a quick break in here. I appreciate it. A lot ahead for us this hour. Coming up straight ahead, another former White House chief of staff will join me calling Trump's pick an outstanding choice. He will explain why next.